This NFL Week 14 pregame show edition of the NFL Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Hall of Fame Bets, the sports betting research platform for parlays, player props, and game lines. Download the Hall of Fame Bets app or visit hofbets.com and use promo code SGPN to get 50% off your first month and start making smarter bets today. Welcome, everyone, to the NFL Gambling Podcast, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. It is NFL Week 14, the pregame show, as we usually do it here. And joining me, they're here to help me break it all down and get into our player props and a lot of injury news, as well as weather, and more weather updates on the East Coast. I got my guy here with me, Lonte Smith. Lonte, how's it going, brother? How you doing?
Not bad, man. Good to be here with you this morning. Yeah, hopefully we can get some winners. I struggled a little bit finding some props due to the circumstances of who's in, who's out. You got quarterbacks being ruled in when they look like the Achilles was done, and yeah, man, it's just a lot of uncertainty. So I struggled a little bit finding some props today, but yeah, hopefully the ones that we got, we can get to the window with them.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of stuff going on this week in week 14. Like I mentioned, weather impacting some of these games. Guys that are either, like you mentioned, with quarterback play, some wide receivers, running backs, defensive players. So we'll go through it all as we usually do. I'll do my best to keep you guys updated. I think the bigger story right now last night was that Trevor Lawrence is planning to start week 14 against the Cleveland Browns. So yeah, we'll go through it game by game as we usually do. So lots for us to get to here, Lonte. Let's just get right into it, my man. First game on the board here, we'll go over to a NFC North battle between the Detroit Lions and the Chicago Bears. Currently, this line stands in favor of the road team, the Detroit Lions. 3.5-point favorites with a total of 44, minus 175 on the money line for the Detroit Lions, and plus 145 for the Chicago Bears. Start with the injury report here for the Detroit Lions. Here, let me get to it first. A little slow this morning, but hey, we're gonna get there for you guys. Give me a second here. Where are the Lions? Lions. All right, here we go. Injuries for the Lions. I see CJ Gardner Johnson, safety. He was put on the injured reserve. Center Frank Ragnow has been ruled out for this game against the Bears, and then quarterback, I should say, their backup quarterback, former Tennessee standout Hayden Hooker, has been ruled out as well. For the Chicago Bears, Yannick Ngakoue is listed as questionable ahead of this game against the Lions. St. Brown, Amarat St. Brown's brother, is going to be out for this game here as well. That's pretty much it. Lonte, what do we got or let me get to the weather here as well, because a lot of these games have weather implications. So for this game between the Bears and the Lions in Chicago, this one not as much. It is going to be cold, about 36 degrees, may dip below freezing temperatures. Winds of 13 miles per hour in the northwest direction, so nothing significant as far as winds and things like that. But it'll be below freezing temperatures, and we know Jared Goff outdoors, December and January, not very good against spread. But Lonte, let's start with our player props here, man. What are we looking at?
Yeah, so I was looking at Jahmyr Gibbs. I wanted to take his receptions at 3.5, but it was kind of juiced, so I just looked for a 4+ receptions, and that's pretty much brings it down to closer to even money. So if you want to find a 4+ receptions for Jahmyr Gibbs, I think that's a really good bet. He's over in 5 of the last 7. Goff is, we all know the numbers whenever he, like you just mentioned, whenever he's outside. Yep. And I don't think that they'll be able to get the run game going. I mean, Chicago's got the number 1 rush defense in the league. They really struggle with the pass game, but it's kind of negated by Jared Goff being kind of inept outside in conditions. So I don't know how often they'll be able to throw the ball successfully here. I think the pass rush of Chicago should be able to get home a little, especially with Ragnow being out. So I maybe look at Jared Goff under. I think the number was 244 and a half passing yards. Maybe they. I'm guessing that Detroit. I'm guessing that Chicago is going to make Jared Goff beat them. So I mean, I'm not 100% sure on that, but I do like Gibbs. If you don't like the receptions, I think he can go over his receiving yards. So I'm gonna go with Gibbs here. I'll leave off Goff because that's kind of I'm kind of going back and forth on it. So give me Gibbs over, or to get 4+ receptions, you can probably get even money, as close as you can to even money. And then his receiving yards, if I'm not mistaken, was around 25 and a half. Is that what you see
For
for
Jameer Gibbs,
Jameer
I see
Gibbs?
29 and a half now.
29 and a half. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I
Yeah.
like that 30. Yeah. So we're going for five for 35 would be perfect for him.
Yeah, currently I see the only one I'm sorry I did like in this game was Justin Fields rushing yards. I mean, we know what he's done against Lions in his career. 3 straight games where he's had 100 plus receiving rushing yards.
Mm-hmm.
Um for the Chicago Bears. Other than that, I really didn't have much for this game. Again, out of lot of injury concerns or weather implications, but it will be cold in Chicago, and with a slight winds in this game. All right, let's get over to the next game here, Lonte. We got the LA Rams. They are in Baltimore to take on the Ravens. Ravens currently sitting as a 7.5 point favorite in this game. Looking at the injury report for both of these teams, let's start here with the road team, the Los Angeles Rams. Rams are going to have Byron Young, linebacker, questionable. Quentin Lake, safety, questionable. Tyler Higbee is officially doubtful for this game. He's dealing with a neck injury, so he will be out for this game. For the Baltimore Ravens, coming off of the bye week, pretty clean for them. The only person I see on their injury report is Malik Harrison, linebacker. He's dealing with a groin issue, but he is expected to suit up in this game against the Los Angeles Rams here. Lonte, any player props in this game that you like?
Yeah, I struggle with this game as well, man. The Rams are pretty much slightly above average offensively, average defensively. Now, some of those numbers offensively are without Stafford, so kind of got to take that into consideration as well. Baltimore is first in rushing yards per game. The Rams are 16th in rushing yards allowed, so maybe a slight advantage to Baltimore there. But I mean, Baltimore is second in pass yards allowed, and that's kind of what the Rams want to do with the play, set you up with the play action. Kyron Williams has been running the ball really, really, really well.
Yep.
I just don't know how he'll fare against this Baltimore front, one of the better defenses in the NFL. So yeah, I'm kind of tapped out on this game, man. I think it's going to be a lot closer game than the point spread indicates. But yeah, I didn't find the edge in anybody. I wanted to take Higbee, but
Mm-hmm.
obviously he's doubtful. So that was the only one I had my eye on. I might look at Kyron Williams under. I think it was 71 and a half was his rushing total. I might look under there, but I didn't find much here.
Um, I'm sorry, who did you mention for the rushing yards?
Kyron Williams.
Yes, he said 71 and a half
Yeah,
for
I would
him.
lean under there.
Yeah, this game is going to have rain. Definitely 98% chance with a slight chance of thunderstorms. So there possibly could be a delay in this game as far as the weather goes here. So again, when you're playing these player props here for today, definitely keep that in mind. I think a lot of these games that have weather implications may just have uh, you know delays, or
Mhm.
maybe seeing more of a running attack in these games here. So
Yeah.
you'll see rain throughout the game, but it's going to be heavier in the second half. Wind gusts in the around 18 miles per hour,
Mhm.
but again stronger in the second half. So maybe look at a second half under in this game as far as
Yeah,
sides and
definitely.
totals. Yeah, I didn't have anything for this game as well. Maybe Gus Edwards over on his rushing yards. I know they have Kenton Mitchell there. He's at 46 and a half in this game. Lamar's at 49 and a half. Maybe I'll look at
I
an
never know
under
what to
for
do with their
Lamar.
backs. I never know what to
Yeah.
do with their backs, man. It's so
Yeah.
tough to figure out who's going to get what. Mitchell was kind of taking over he's the more explosive back,
Right.
obviously,
Yeah.
but I mean, I feel like me and you can run behind the offensive line the way they block. So yeah, and I mean
um,
something that I've been doing with like weather game or potential weather games is looking at tackles and assist props for the linebackers because
yeah.
it'll be a lot more run heavy. So if you
Hmm.
can find like a a linebacker who is pretty active in tackles. Don't bet it blindly, of course, but just find a linebacker who's really good at sharing tackles, because you're gonna run the ball in weather,
Yeah.
probably about 70% of the time.
Yep.
So that's a good angle that I always use whenever I'm handicapping the weather game. So it's just something to put in your pocket for later on.
So snap counts over the last 3 weeks between Edwards and Mitchell. Gus Edwards has been trending down from week 10, 52 to 38 to 27 percentage of the snap counts. And then for Mitchell, since week 10, 24% up to 36% week 11. And then week 12, 46%. So looks like Mitchell is starting to get most of the carries in the backfield for the Baltimore Ravens. All right, let's get over to the next game here, Lonte. We've got the Indianapolis Colts. They are in Cincinnati to take on the Bengals. The currently for this game, let's see here. The Bengals are now a 2.5 point favorite in this game, with a total of 44. I think I saw, yeah, 44. Looking at the injury report for both of these teams, I am currently seeing for the road team, the Indianapolis Colts. Let's see here. No, I don't need the Texans. I need the Colts. So for the Colts, EJ Speed linebacker has been ruled out. Juju Brent's cornerback has been ruled out as well. Jonathan Taylor, we know, is going to be missing some time with the thumb injury. He's already been ruled out as well. And that is pretty much it for the Colts. For the Cincinnati Bengals, obviously, we know about Joe Burrow. Jake Browning is going to get his I think it was his third start in a row. DJ Reader, defensive tackle, is listed as questionable ahead of this game with a back injury. Tyler Boyd, wide receiver, also questionable for this game. He is dealing with an ankle injury. He did log a limited minutes in practice on Friday. And then that is pretty much it. All right, Lonte, what are we looking at for player props in this game?
Yeah, so I'm gonna go with a little bit off the radar. It's gonna be Kyle Granson over 11.5 receiving yards. Cincinnati struggles defending tight ends over the past 5 games. This is some of the tight end numbers. Ingram 9 for 82, Pat Fryermuth 9 for 120. Andrews, if you remember, he was on his way to have a big game. I mean, they started out that first drive. He was cooking. I think he only had 2 for I think 31, but you can tell what kind of game it was about to be for him. Dalton Schultz had 4 for 71. Kincaid had 10 for 81. So I think they've just been susceptible to tight ends. And I think Granson I think 11.5 is pretty low. I mean, he's over in 6 of his last 10 games, in 6 of the 10 games that he's played. A few of those games he wasn't even targeted in. So, I mean, hard to kind of distinguish that. But I do think that he gets a lot of targets here, especially with that Cincinnati defense that's a little bit soft over the middle. So I like Granson over 11.5 receiving yards. If you want to find him, I know we'll go over the touchdown scores, but I like him to score today as well. And I do like Mixon over 60.5 rushing yards. Indy's allowed back-to-back 100-yard rushers, 70 plus to 2 people in the Tennessee game. I think Spears has 76. Mixon's been running a lot better over the last month. He's over in 2 of his last 3. The Indianapolis defense is 26 in rushing yards allowed. I think Browning being able to sustain those drives. We saw it we saw it on Monday Night Football against the Jags. He was able to throw the ball around, and that kind of freed up the box to allow Mixon to kind of get loose. So I do like Mixon over 60.5 rushing yards. I mean, you kind of put me on his receptions and receiving yards, so I don't hate the combined, or if you want to split them up and put half unit on rushing, half unit on receiving, I wouldn't hate that either.
Yeah, I do like Mixon over on his rushing yards, like you mentioned. Colts against running backs over the last few weeks here have just not been very good back to back. Like you mentioned, it was what Rashad White had 100, and then Derrick Henry last week had a big week as well.
Spears had 76 in that game.
Yeah, Ramondre Stevenson also I think had 80 yards when they faced each other as well. So do like Joe Mixon here over on his rushing yards. You mentioned Granson there. Steffi Smalls mentioned this to me as well when I was doing her show. We're talking about it offline on his receiving line as well. Like you mentioned, they're not defending the tight end position very well. Are the Colts? So I think we're going to be fading the Colts defense here for sure. So yeah, I do like those calls. As far as weather in this game, the 39 miles, 39 degrees. So it'll be a little bit. No, that's not right. Sorry, that's yeah, sorry, that is right. 39 degrees. Not much weather here. It's gonna be overcast, no rain. Wind is not a factor either in this game against the Colts and the in Cincinnati here. All right, let's get over to the next game here. Lonte, we'll go over to the game between we'll get to my Texans here. Texans and the New York Jets in the Meadowlands. Currently, the Texans are a 3-point favorite in this game with a total of, I think this is the second lowest total we've seen ever, or I think this season. Right now, it's at 33. I think that's going to start trending down to 32 is what I was looking at. Let me start with the weather in this game because it does obviously that's what the implications are. So it's gonna be raining. It's gonna be 94% rain all throughout the game. It's not cold. It is 58 degrees. Winds are blowing 13 miles per hour in the southwest direction. And then let's see here, wind gusts of up to 20, wind gusts from 25 miles per hour up to 40 miles per hour from sideline to sideline. It's going to feel like in the low 40s, even though the temperature is supposed to be, in the 50s here. So this is going to be one of the games that it's going to have the uglier weather, rain, and it gets heavier as the game does progress for the Texans and the Jets here. So let me get over to the injury reports for both of these teams. For the Houston Texans, Noah Brown is dealing with a knee injury, but he is expected to play here against the Jets. Sheldon Rankins for the Texans was a limited participant in practice on Friday. He's dealing with an elbow injury. And Dalton Schultz has already been ruled out for this game. He's dealing with a hamstring injury, so I expect Brevin Jordan to be out there for the Texans in that tight end position. For the New York Jets, Zach Wilson is going to begin the start here again for the Jets. Brees Hall is dealing with an ankle injury, but he is expected to play in this game against the Texans. And that is pretty much it for the New York Jets here. Lonte, any player props you like in this game?
Yeah, I know the weather is going to be what it is, but I think it's still some opportunity for Garrett Wilson to go over 4.5 receptions. He's over in six of the 9 games that he's played with Zach. The Houston secondary is a little bit weaker towards wide receiver ones. Ridley had 5. Dale Collins and no, I'm sorry, I'm reading up the wrong ones. Ridley had 5. Chase and Boyd had 5 plus. So I think that he can have some success here against his secondary. A lot of short stuff over the middle. So I think the weather can allow Zach to get the ball out quick to Garrett Wilson and let him make plays. So I do like him over 4.5 receptions. That should be at plus money too, so you can get a little plus money on that. I like Pierce over, what is this, 36.5?
Yeah, I see 36.5 for him.
Yeah, so I think the injuries to the wide receiver and tight end position, I think they're going to lean more in the run game, obviously with the weather as well. Pierce took over that work share last week. He had 16 for 41 versus Denver. And Denver's metrics don't say it, but they're pretty good a rush defense. And Singletary's workload has been decreasing. I mean, 14 carries combined his last 2 weeks. So I think Pierce is slated to take over that RB1 role. Maybe you can give me some more insight on that. But I do like Pierce to go over. I think they lean a little bit. I think they lean a little bit more into the rush game because the Jets are 28 in rushing yards allowed, and you don't want Stroud throwing into that secondary. The Jets secondary is still one of the best in the NFL, so I think they lean more on Pierce in the run game here.
Yeah, I think that it'll be a Pierce week here, for sure. That number has trickled down a little bit. I'm guessing that, or sorry, it's actually ticked up to 37.5 now with Juice at minus 135. I do like Pierce in this game. On his rush attempts, though,
Yeah, like that.
Devin Singletary was that guy. Obviously when Damian Pierce was out with the injury, but over the past, I think I want to say 2 weeks, the snap count for both of these running backs have gone in the opposite direction. So um week 13, I think that's when Damian Pierce started getting more of a workload here. He was up to 38% of the carries, and then Devin Singletary was at 46% as well. So I do like his rush attempts to go over 10.5. His yards per carry haven't been there this season. I don't know if he's just not, reading the right I guess gaps to get through. behind this offensive line, but he's only averaging 3 yards per carry. So I think that again, if he gets into the realm of 12 to 15 carries in this game here, Lonte, I think he definitely does
Yeah.
get over this number of 37.5. Last week, I think is a prime example that 15 carries last week for 41 yards, but one rush of that went for 22 yards. Rest of the way, he was what then 14 of 19. So that's just not going to get it done. But again, this is going to be a game, like I mentioned, with ugly weather. Um, and I think they do rely a little bit more on the running attack for both of these teams here in this game between the Texans and the Jets. Um, Cape Quest asking if CJ is going to struggle without Tank. I don't think so. I think Noah Brown has filled in nicely when Tank Dell has been out. Tank Dell has filled in nicely when Noah Brown has been out. Nico Collins has had a phenomenal year for this Texans team. So I don't expect there to be a lot of throwing in this game just because I
Yeah, I
mentioned
was
with the
about to
weather
say.
here, Cape
Yeah.
or Cap. But yeah, I think that if you want to look at overs in this game, definitely look at rush attempts to go over for both sides of these teams here, whether it's the Brees Hall or whether it's with Damian Pierce as well. So it may seem like he will struggle in this game. Just because, again, like I mentioned with the weather, but I think we'll get a more of a telling sign when they're back at home playing in the dome. All right, Lonte, let's get over to the next game here. This one is going to be in a dome here. That's going to be between the Saints and the Panthers. Currently, the Saints are up to a 6-point favorite in this game. And let me see if I can find the injury or who's going to be playing quarterback.
They say Derek Carr
For
got cleared.
Oh, he did.
Or yeah, I think it was either yesterday or 2 days ago he got cleared.
Okay. All right, so we expect Derek Carr to start here today. Yeah, he's not on the injury report, so it looks like he's going to be a go. So Taysom Hill is going to be out for this game. He's dealing with a foot and hand injury. Rashid Shaheed, wide receiver, is unlikely to play. Juwan Johnson, tight end, is expected to play. Chris Olave, he's dealing with the illness. Has yet to make a full recovery, but is expected to play in this game. So expect him to, I guess, obviously give it a go, but he may not be as effective for the Saints. And then for the Carolina Panthers, Deshaun Williams, defensive tackle, is going to be out for this game. He's dealing with a knee injury. Um, Stephen Sullivan, tight end, is shoulder questionable. Tommy Tremble, tight end, was a full participant. He's dealing with a hip issue. And then Hayden Hurst, I know he's dealing with some things, with a concussion and some mental things. So hopefully he can make a speedy recovery and get back out there playing for the Carolina Panthers. But, always got to take care of your mentals first before, you do anything. You're so wishing Hayden Hurst, a speedy recovery and then hopefully, he's back on the football field soon. Let's start with the player props here. Obviously, no weather since they're playing in New Orleans
Yep.
in the Superdome. What do you like for this game?
Yeah, so I'm gonna like two receivers here, two young receivers, actually, both rookies. I'm gonna go with Mingo over 36.5
Yep.
receiving yards. Saints banged up in the secondary. Mingo's kind of ascended a little bit since teams have been kind of keying in on Adam Thielen. He's had 10 receptions on 16 targets in the last 2 weeks, so that's a good sign. They're getting the ball out of Bryce's hands a lot quicker because of the offensive line. So I think Mingo can have a decent game here. It's good after the catch. So I like Mingo to go over 36.5. I'm also going to look at A.T. Perry over 16.5. You mentioned all the receivers that are banged up. Olave sick, Shaheed out. They don't, they use Taysom Hill at the tight end position. He's out. So I think they're going to lean on the run game a little bit more as well. So I don't hate Alvin Kamara, like his rushing receiving yards. He didn't play in the first game. And Taysom Hill had a really good game on the ground. He had 9 for 75. And Olave was 6 for 86. But I mean, I just don't know what to, expect from, him being sick and how bad is it, because we know, the NFL doesn't give us a lot of quality injury reports as far as
Yeah.
the stuff that was going on with Bijan that one time. Nobody knew he was sick. So I don't know to the extent of how sick he is, but I don't want to put my money on it. And then he kind of, goes out there, plays a little, and doesn't perform at peak level. So Carolina is fourth in passing yards allowed. So I don't trust Derek Carr to like stretch the ball down the field. They do struggle 23rd versus in the rush defense. So I do think that Mingo can get loose here. And I also think A.T. Perry, he caught one ball for I think like 35 yards last week to go over that prop. I think he'll get more targets here in the short pass game. I don't think, of course, Carr is not capable of stretching the field. So I like both the young receivers here to go over.
I agree with you about Jonathan Mingo. I talked about this last week as well on one of the articles that I wrote for the website. Going up against the Buccaneers because Buccaneers at that time were allowing the most wide receiving yards to the wide receiver position, and Mingo finished, I think, that game with 69, and his
Yeah, he
number was
did.
listed around 25 and a half. So I know the books have adjusted for it a little bit here. And it makes sense as well because it seems like this part of the year is where Adam Thielen starts trending down, just because maybe the mileage is catching up about of the season and him being a veteran, and then you see some of these younger guys start to get more targets and things like that. So I'm with you on Jonathan Mingo here. I think it's going to be another big week for him as well. I think with all the injuries that are going on with the Saints here, I just feel like it might just be an Alvin Kamara game.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, they this is the first matchup between, or this is the first time Alvin Kamara is going to play against this Panthers this season. But last season, 23 carries, 107 yards. Prior to that, last season, 15 carries for 61 rushing yards. I know the last two games his receiving yards haven't been there head to head against the Panthers, but traditionally in his career he's done pretty well as far as receiving the ball as well. So I'm trying to see if I can find a rushing and receiving prop here for Kamara. Let's see here. Alvin Kamara, that number is it's at 105 and a half. So I think the
Yeah, that's
books are
high.
expecting.
That's high. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why
The book
I stayed away from it.
Yeah, so I guess the books are expecting him to be heavily involved here. I think if you want to pivot, then maybe look at the rush attempts to go over for him. That number's
Yeah, I
at
don't hate that.
15 and a half. Curious to see what his receptions are as well. Anything
I'm
at
guessing like 4.5, 5.
yeah, if it's 4.5, I think I'll still take the over. 4.5 at minus 145. So you're pretty much right
Wow.
around 5.5. So
Yeah.
yeah, I do think he'll be involved, but I'm not sure if I'm going to lay that minus 145 price on a 4.5. So again, definitely shop around and try to get the best number for that. Anything else for this game, Lonte?
No, that's it. That's all I have.
All right, let's get over to the next game here. We'll go over to the game in the same division. We'll go to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Atlanta Falcons. Falcons currently sitting as a 1.5 point favorite in this game, hosting the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Looking at the injury report for both of these teams here, obviously nothing for weather related because, again, another team that is in the dome. Start here with the home team, the Atlanta Falcons. They are going to be without Caleb McGarry, offensive tackle. He's dealing with a knee injury. Drew Dahlman, center, is questionable with an ankle injury. Mike Hughes, cornerback, questionable with a hand injury. Jeff Okuda is also listed as questionable with a ankle injury. Mac Hollins also listed as questionable for this game with an ankle injury. So a lot of ankle injuries here for this
Yeah,
team in
definitely.
Atlanta. I don't know what's going on over there. Let's take a look here for Tampa here, Lonte. Let's see what we got. For the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, KJ Britt, linebacker, is dealing with a back injury. He's officially listed as questionable. Vita Vea is dealing with a toe injury. He is questionable for this game as well. And then Jamal Dean, cornerback, and Devin White have already been ruled out for this game. So two guys that did miss last week on the defensive side are missing this game as well. And then you have two more guys. So maybe a little bit banged up are the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on the defensive side of the football here, Lonte. All right, let's kick it off with the player props here, man. What are we looking at?
Yeah, we mentioned Bijan being hurt in that, well, not hurt, but sick and not reported in that first game. But I like him over his receiving yards today. 22.5 is a number. He's over in back-to-back games. He's had 11 targets in that 2-game span. Running backs typically have better success through the air than they do running on Tampa Bay's front. Their front is really good at defending the run. So I think that Bijan has a good day here. Algier had 3 for 53 in the first game, and I think that I obviously think that Bijan is a lot more talented than Algier is. So I think he'll split out. I think he'll split out in the slot a little bit more, get the ball moving side to side. I wanted to go with Ritter, his over, because Tampa's secondary is banged up and they struggle 28th in passing yards allowed. But I just don't trust him to do that much. He did have 250 passing yards on 25 attempts in the first meeting. So I lean that way. But I love Bijan over 22.5 receiving yards. I also love Drake London over 4.5 receptions. He's over in 5 of his last 7. He had 6 on 7 targets in the first meeting. If you look at some of the wide receivers that Tampa's gone against, I mean, Pittman had 10, Ayuk had 5, Dale and Noah Brown had 6 each, Diggs and Davis had 9 versus Tampa. So the secondary is giving up some catches. And I like the short stuff to London is going to be there. Of course, the jump balls in the end zone as well. So I think he can get 7 to 8 catches here in this matchup. I don't hate the yardage, but I would prefer the reception. So Drake London over 4.5 receptions, Bijan over 22.5 receiving yards.
Yeah, I did take the yardage for Drake London. It was at
Yeah, I don't hate
46
that.
and a half. Yeah,
Yeah, I
it's
don't
up to
hate that.
49 and a half now.
Yeah, 5 for 50 wins pretty much.
Yeah, and like you mentioned it, I think it's been 8. Sorry, I was in an article last week. Who did I take last week again? Mingo was the one I took last week, and it's they've given up, like you mentioned, the guys' names, given up 100 plus receiving yards, and I think this is going to be a game where Drake London I think has a great game. I think he played them last season 3 times, or sorry, twice, obviously last season. And I think one of those games he did have a 100 plus receiving yard game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So right now that number is at 49 and a half. So last season, 2 games, 6 receptions, 120 yards, 6 receptions, 54 yards for Drake London. So I look at it both ways. Lonte likes the over on the receptions. I like the yardage. Also looking at Kate Ogden in this game, tight end for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Atlanta Falcons, at least since week 10, have been giving it up to the tight end position. They're allowing the third most receiving yards at 78.7, allowing the second most targets to the tight end position, 10.3, and then they're allowing right at 6 receptions per game to the tight end position. Cade Otton is at the last time I saw was 24 and a half for his receiving yards. I don't hate that as well. I think low key this may turn into one of those games where it may be a higher scoring game.
Yeah, I think so too. I think so too.
Yeah. Kate Ogden is at 25 and a half at minus 130. And I'm going to go back to the well as well. I know you and I have talked about this guy a lot, Rashad White. I think this might be another game where he does get over his receiving yards of 25 and a half. So a lot of low numbers to capitalize on here, but I do think that some of these guys are in a prime position tonight, going up against some of these or both teams that have porous defenses, and Tampa dealing with all the injuries that they have on the defensive side of the football. I think, they can, both teams can take advantage of the defenses in this game. So I do like that. Anything else for this game, Lonte?
No, maybe look at Chris. What is Chris Godwin's catches?
Catches, he's at, I don't know, yardage was at 48 and a half. Receptions is 4.5 minus 145.
Yeah, damn, that's kind of juicy. Yeah, I think Chris Godwin has a decent game here. Maybe if you want to ladder up 5 plus and 50 plus yards to get there. He hasn't had a lot of success in the past few games. I think he had like 2 catches in the past 2 games combined. But yeah, I think Chris Godwin has a good game here. So if you could find some, 50 plus, like something to get you some plus money on, 50 plus, 55 plus, 60 plus, I think he has a good game. And maybe 5 plus catches, 6 plus catches, I think he'll get it done there. Baker was a bit banged up. He got a week to get healthy. So I think he'll be better passing the ball this week as well.
Mike Evans has just been absolutely incredible against the Falcons in his career.
Yeah, man.
The number's at 75 and a half now, but I mean, just the last 4 games, 75, 99, 81, 82. For Mike Evans earlier this season, back on October 22nd, in that game, 6 receptions on 8 targets for 82 yards. He did have a touchdown that game as well. So, I can never talk you off of Mike Evans props for him against obviously any team. All right, Lonte, let's get over to the next game here. We'll go over to the Jacksonville Jaguars. They are in Cleveland to take on the Cleveland Browns. Obviously, the big news for the Jacksonville Jaguars is that Trevor Lawrence is expected to start against the Cleveland Browns. But it does say he is a true game time decision. So we'll see how he goes through warmups. And the final decision will be made on his status at that point. But trending towards expecting to start in this game. Travis Etienne, we talked about this as well last week on the Monday Night Football pod. He's dealing with a ribs injury, but he's still likely to play against the Browns in this game. Tyson Campbell, cornerback, has been ruled out for this game for the Jacksonville Jaguars. He's dealing with a quadriceps injury. And then let's go over to the Cleveland side. It will be another week of Joe Flacco at the quarterback position. Cameron Mitchell, cornerback, is questionable. He was activated to the roster. I know he's been on the IR. And then Amari Cooper was cleared of concussion protocol and is in line to start against the Jaguars in this game. Let me get to the weather here for this game here, Lonte. So we do have slight chances of rain in this game between the Jags and the Browns here. Let me get a more accurate one because Jason Logan of Covers does a really good job of actually getting out accurate information of weather. So he's saying that there are going to be wind gusts of 24 miles per hour in this game, stronger in the second half, blowing west end to end. And then there's, again, very slight chance of rain, like I mentioned, but it's going to feel like it's in the 30 degrees in this game. And you have a Florida team now, Lonte, that's coming in to Cleveland here, going up against, a Browns team that is pretty much used to playing in bad weather. I mean, we saw it in week one where they had that monsoon and they, ended up beating, I forgot who was it Cincinnati? Yeah, they played in week one. So nothing the Browns are not used to here. But now you have a Florida team that's headed up to Cleveland that's having to deal with, number one, these weather conditions. And also, even if Trevor Lawrence does start in this game here, Lonte, how effective is he really going to be here?
Right.
But player props in this game, what are we looking at?
Yeah, and for that, I don't think they have. I was looking at some Zay Jones stuff, but they don't have any receivers up for the Jags. At least the last time I looked. But I do like Alua Khan, the linebacker for the Jags, over 9.5 tackles plus assists. He's over this number in eight of the 12 games. Cleveland is a big run first team, so there'll be plenty of opportunities. You mentioned the weather. I think that play a part in it as well. He's really good at getting to the ball. He leads the NFL in tackles. I think he just regained that lead on Monday. He's at 131. I think Franklin is for the Colts is at 130. So yeah, I think he has a big day here. I think he can get closer to like 15 tackles here with this, especially with how the weather in Cleveland. Cleveland wants to run the ball. Flacco did look good last week though. He looked real good last week. But I do think they want to lean more on their run game. So I like the Lucan over 9.5 tackles and assists. And you mentioned it, man. I'm going to go under on ETN, under 60.5 rushing yards, banged up with that rib injury, under in 4 straight games. Workload has kind of, been a tick down. He's under 15 carries in 4 of his last 6 games. So I think a lot of that has to do with him just not being 100%. And we all know what Cleveland does on defense. I mean, they're one of the better defenses in the NFL, if not the best. The first in passing yards allowed, 14th against the rush. I think that pass rush will get home if Lawrence is there. Even if he isn't, I still think that it's some value on him going under. If he's out, then that's even more value under the 60.5 because Cleveland can probably just load the box and play one-on-one on the outside. So I like Aluakon over the 9.5 tackles plus assists, ETN under 60.5 rushing yards.
Yeah, Zay Jones, I do see at 29.5 for
over.
his.
I need that over.
Yeah, on his receiving yards. Travis Etienne over 18.5 receiving yards. I think something that I would be intrigued by. Like you mentioned, I'm not a fan of the rushing yards in this game, but I do think that we do see him get involved in the passing game, whether it's screen passes or short stuff. Maybe Charlie check down if Trevor Lawrence indeed does start in this game. He has gone over 18.5 yards receiving in back-to-back games, 30 against the Texans. And then last week on Monday Night Football, he did have 34 receiving yards. And he's done it more times than not this season. 27 against the Colts, 50 against the Texans again. He had 17 against the Falcons, 48 against the Bills, 28 against the Colts, 24 against the Saints, 70 against the Steelers. So, yeah, definitely do like ETN over on his receiving yards. Anything else? I think that was the only one that I really did like in this game here. But
yeah, those are the only two. Yeah, those are the only two that I liked. I was going to be on Flacco if the weather was a little bit better. I thought that he was really good, and the Jag secondary can be gotten, but I don't want to chance it with the weather. So I'm just going to lean on, the unders in this game pretty heavy. But I do like Zay Jones over, especially his receptions as well. With Kirk being out, he's a good underneath route runner. Obviously, not going to be trying to take the top off in this kind of weather, at least not right away. So, yeah, I think Zay Jones' receptions and yards is a good bet as well.
All right, let's get over to the afternoon slate here. We'll start here with the let's go to the Niners and the Seahawks game. Right now, the Seahawks are I want to say it was 13 and a half the last time I saw this line. And that has
Yeah,
to do with
that's right.
yeah, 13 and a half. All right, the total right
Mm-hmm.
now in this game sitting at 46, 45 and a half now at some books here. So let me adjust this on our banner here. All right. So let's start with the injury report here for both of these teams. And let's start here with the Seattle Seahawks. Obviously, Geno Smith is a true game time decision in this game. He is dealing with a groin injury. He's going to go through warmups and see if he is going to be able to go. But it seems like he isn't expected to start in this game. So it's going to be Drew Lock, obviously, if he's not able to go. Also, the running backs here for the Seattle Seahawks, Lonte, Zach Charbonnet is listed as questionable, but he is expected to suit up for the game against the Niners. Though it says that he will likely be in the number 2 role at running back, and also Kenneth Walker III is listed as questionable. He's dealing with an oblique injury, but he is also expected to start in this game against the San Francisco 49ers. So a lot of injuries here for not only the quarterback, but also banged up running backs for the Seattle Seahawks. For the San Francisco 49ers, Ray McLeod, the third wide receiver, was placed on IR with a ribs injury. And then guys that are officially ruled out. So Armstead, defensive end, is been ruled out. He's dealing with a foot and knee injury. Elijah Mitchell, running back, is doubtful. He's dealing with a knee injury as well. And that is pretty much it as far as significant injuries here for the Niners and the Seahawks here. Lonte, what are we looking at for player props in this game?
Yeah, just one, man. A lot of uncertainty in this game, as you just went over. I'm gonna go with something that's been winning me money since probably like 2 years ago. Debo Samuel over 67 and a half rushing and receiving yards. He's been on a tear since he's came back. What is this? 140? Oh, no, 138, 96, and 63 in his last 3 games. He's had 3+ carries in 3 of the last 4 games. So he's getting a decent amount. For a wide receiver, he's getting more carries than most of those guys do, and he's capitalizing. And we all know Seattle's up front not good at all at defending the run. He flourished against Seattle on Thanksgiving. That's where that 96 came from. And obviously they were in positive. They were in kind of a negative game script to be throwing the ball, and he still had a good day. He's going to break tackles. Going to get the ball to him early, so he's going to get the opportunity to. He could go over this just in receiving yards alone in my opinion. So I do think Debo has a big day against the Seattle secondary and up front if he decides to get in the backfield.
Yeah, Debo in his career against the Seahawks in 5 games, and this is just receiving yards 112, 102, 156, 44 last season, but he also did have 53 rushing yards in that game. And then earlier um, this season, 79 receiving yards and then also 15 rushing yards. So,
Yep.
like Lonte mentioned, that he may be able to just get over this number just by the receiving yards alone. I feel like George Kittle has also done very well in his
Yeah.
career
I think he had 114
against.
last on Thanksgiving, 5 for 114,
Yeah,
if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
yeah. Um, no, he only had 3 for 19. I think that
Who am
might
I
have
thinking
been
about that?
somebody else that he was it Dallas? No, not Dallas. Who they just recently? It wasn't the Eagles.
Yeah, I know
But I do remember
somebody.
that game here. I have it here. Let me see.
Yeah, somebody had a big day. Maybe
Um,
it wasn't him.
he had it against Jacksonville,
That's
three
who
for
it was.
one sixteen. Yeah,
That's
and
what
then
it
he
is.
had 8 for 89 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 6 for 68 last week against the Jacksonville Jaguars. So I love the Debo call there. Who else do they have in the backfield there for the 49ers outside of CMC?
They use a lot of
Name is
is
slipping
it,
my mind.
I forgot his name. Oh, look,
God.
hold on. Let me look at this.
Um, man, it's at
System.
the tip of my tongue too.
Where are you?
Jordan Mason.
I think that is it. No, Elijah Mitchell.
No, well, Mitchell's doubtful, so that's why I was going to pivot
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah.
to.
Mason is next up. Yeah, Mason is next up.
Okay, so I don't think I see his props listed here for Mason, but I don't think that we're going to see a world where that if this game does turn into a blowout, that they're going to risk being CMC being out there. I don't see his props listed here yet for Jordan Mason, maybe closer to game time, but I think that might be a pivot here. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it for this game that I have. You have anything else?
Nope, that's it.
All right, let's get over to the next game here on the West Coast. We'll go over to the game between the Minnesota Vikings and the Las Vegas Raiders. Raiders currently are catching 3 points at home against the Vikings, a total of 40 and a half in this game. No weather implications, obviously, being in a dome for the Las Vegas Raiders. All right, looking at the injuries in this game for the Minnesota Vikings, we are going to see obviously Josh Dobbs at the quarterback position. Jordan Hicks is trending towards coming back, not this week, but next week for the Minnesota Vikings defense. Obviously, the big news in this game is Justin Jefferson is back for the Minnesota Vikings after missing 4, 5, 6 weeks there with a
I think he missed.
hamstring
Yeah, I think he missed 5 or 6. Yeah.
injury. And then for the Raiders on their injury report, Colton Miller, offensive tackle, has been ruled out. He's dealing with a shoulder injury. Max Crosby is questionable with this game with a knee injury. So we'll see if he's able to go in this game here or not here. But any player props you like in this game, Lonte?
Yeah, man, I like a couple. I like Alexander Madison over 52.5 rushing yards. Carries have picked up. He's at 28 combined in his last 2 games. He finished with 52 last game, 81 this yards the game before that. Chandler only 4 carries in the last game, so Madison's getting a lot of the workload. I think they'll be able to move around up front. The Vegas rush defense is pretty poor, and with Crosby being questionable, that kind of adds a little that adds a little bit more success for them to be able to get there. The 25th in rushing yards allowed, Vegas is. So I like Madison to go over that 52.5. They'll be able to spread the field more with Dobbs, with Jetta being back. So I like him to go over 52.5 rushing yards. I love O'Connell props in this game, man. I love over 214 passing yards. He's had 245 in his last 74 attempts in his last 2 games as well. So he's really throwing the ball a lot. He played 3 really good secondaries: the Jets, Miami, Kansas City. This is a step down for sure. Although Brian Flores does have them playing a lot better, but I think those 3 secondaries are slam dunk better than what the Vikings have. I like him over 20.5 completions. It's over in those 2 straight games, 47 combined in those 2 games. If they're in a negative game script, he'll be throwing the ball a lot. We all know that Flores likes to bring the blitz, so you're going to look at him getting the ball out quick to those playmakers, Devontae Adams specifically. If you look at the last few quarterbacks that they played, Fields had 27 completions, Russ had 27 completions, Heineke 21, Love 24. So I think he can fall right in between those numbers. I'm looking at it like a 22 to 23 type of completion game for him for around 225, 230. So I like O'Connell. Actually, I love O'Connell props this week. Probably one of my favorite looks on the board.
Yeah, I think that this game may be one of the lower scoring games here.
Dang, you think so? I think it could
I
be. I think it's going to be a shootout.
I don't know. I think that ever since Antonio Pierce took over as a head coaching
Yeah, that's
the
fair.
head
Yeah.
coaching, like I think there's been a more of an emphasis on the defensive side of the football. I think it kind of spoke volumes to me as well when they went to Miami and they held them. I think like 20 points to the Raiders defensively. So
Yeah.
um yeah, I think this might be one of the lower scoring games, like a 21-17 type of final here in this game. I think it stays under the total, but I think I would probably look at maybe Josh Jacobs in this game. I think on his receiving yards, I wanted to say that the Vikings were giving it up to the running back position through the air here. Let me see if I can find that exact number here. receiving yards. Yeah, so the Vikings are allowing the most receiving yards to the running back position since week 10. They're allowing 60 receiving yards on 9.7 targets, and they're also giving up 9.7 receptions as well in that span. So if you want to look at Josh Jacobs here, maybe some easy dunk, dinking and dunking to Josh Jacobs. I think that this is a good opportunity for him to have a big game here for the Raiders offense, racking up the yardage and the catches in this game.
Yeah,
Not
agreed.
sure we're going to expect out of Justin Jefferson in this game, like I mentioned. So I'm going to steer away from that, especially with Josh Dobbs. I know for the Minnesota Vikings and Josh Dobbs, it's been about his rushing yards. So I'm not opposed to it. It's at 25.5 in this game. But um, yeah, that's all pretty much I had for this game, Lonte. Anything else you have?
Yeah, I might look at Addison with Jetta being back. Probably open up some openings. Probably open up some space for him in that slot. He won't be the number one guy on the outside, causing some attention. So maybe some Addison receiving yards and receptions props as well.
Yeah, I don't hate that. All right, let's get over to one of the games of the week here. The Buffalo Bills, they are in Kansas City to take on the Chiefs in this game. Currently, the Chiefs are sitting as a 1.5 point favorite with a total of 48.5. Let's first look at the um, injury report for both of these teams here. I'll start with the road team here, the Buffalo Bills. Bills are going to be with Dawson Knox. He is making his return, but he's still officially listed as questionable. I thought I saw a note earlier this week that he was going to be playing in this game, but officially still listed as questionable in this game. Coming back from that wrist injury, and that is pretty much it for the Buffalo Bills. For the Kansas City Chiefs in this game, Isaiah Pacheco, we know, or for a lot of you don't know, that he was ruled out earlier this week with a shoulder injury, is what I think was classified as dealing with shoulder contusion is the exact name. Brian Cook's safety was placed on IR for the Chiefs secondary. Donovan Smith, offensive tackle, neck has been ruled out, and Drew Tranquil, linebacker, dealing with a concussion, he's been ruled out as well for this game. So a couple of injuries on the Chiefs side here, as far as guys that are going to be in or out. Lonte, start off with the player props here, man. What are you looking at?
Yeah, so I'm going to look at McKinnon over 19 and a half receiving yards. I think he'll
Yep.
feel in pretty I think he'll feeling pretty good as far as catching the ball out of the backfield. I think he has no issue doing that, filling that role. We saw him do it for a while versus I mean, not versus, but with Minnesota. And I think he fits that role pretty well. He'll be kind of a third down and short back to kind of come in, so you don't know what to expect whether run or pass. So I think he does a good job there. So I think he goes over that number pretty easily here. And I also like Clyde Edwards-Helaire over 49 and a half, I think is the number that I see, updated number on his rushing yards. I think he'll capitalize on Pacheco being back. He's getting the opportunity to be a starter and come in and have some damage. I think he sees a good day against the Bills front, who, while I think they will be trending up later, well, not later, but I guess in the next few weeks, I think he'll still be able to get some put. I think the offensive line of the Chiefs will be able to get some push, and we'll see Clyde Edwards-Helaire have a pretty big day, especially with those pass catches for the Chiefs, man. Not let Mahomes down and let my pockets down as well in a few of those games. So, yeah, I'm going to lean on Clyde Edwards-Helaire over that rushing prop and McKinnon over 19 and a half receiving yards.
Yeah, I love McKinnon in this game for his receiving yards as well, 19.5. I think that you'll see, in throwing downs that you'll see McKinnon in the backfield, and then obviously Clyde Edwards-Helaire should be getting most of the carries there for this team as far as running the football goes. I do like Josh Allen on his rushing yards in this game. That was at 32.5. 5 career games against the Chiefs, including the playoffs. He's gone over in 4 out of the 5 games, rushing the ball for more than 33 or more yards. The only game that he didn't, he had 32. So he got hooked on that current number right now. So this is a big game for the Buffalo Bills. I think that, for Josh Allen, that I think the responsibility does fall on his shoulders here. So I do think that when it matters the most, that Josh Allen will utilize his legs and run the football here. So, um, do like Josh Allen over on his rushing yards, still at 32.5, but it's juiced at minus 140. I think that was it. And then you mentioned the Clyde Edwards, Jarek McKinnon receiving yards. That was the other one I liked in this game, but that was pretty much it for this game. Anything else you liked in this game?
That's it, man. Gonna be a really good game though. That's for sure.
Yeah, 100%. All right, let's get over to the AFC West game. Currently, the for the Broncos and the Chargers. Chargers are a 3-point favorite in this game, total of 43.5. Looking at the injury report here for the Denver Broncos, Broncos are going to be without pretty much nobody. All the guys, I mean, we already talked about that have been on the injured reserve, but Samaje Perine is listed as questionable with a knee injury, but he's expected to be active for this game. For the LA Chargers, as far as injuries, Josh Palmer, we know, was was listed out. He's been put on the IR with a knee injury. The biggest story was out of the backfield news for this Chargers team that Joshua Kelly and Austin Eckler are going to be splitting the carries here. And the note came across that Brandon Staley said that he's going to go with the guy that has a hotter hand. So take that for whatever it's worth for this game here between, or at least for the Chargers backfield, if you're looking at their player props in this game here. Lonte, what do you like for player props in this game?
I don't like anything. I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't like anything about this game. I mean, Austin Eckler's been bad. I can see why he split. Like he's been horrific in the last 2 games. 24 carries for 50 yards combined. But the Denver defense does. I mean, their rush defense isn't the greatest. I mean, Ford had 65 for Cleveland, Madison 81, Cook 109, and Murray in the same game had 68. So maybe if you want to split a unit and go over on Eckler and then over on Kelly, if they're going to split the ball, because I think they'll have success here. And I'll go back to Javonte Williams, just his rushing yards and carries prop. I would kind of lean maybe like a quarter unit on the carry simply because Denver, they involve Perine and McLaughlin a lot. Not just in the rush game, but being on the field in pass situations, and they take Javonte off the field. I have no idea why, but the Chargers are 25th in rushing yards per game, so they're not running the ball well at all. But I can kind of see them having success here against the 32nd ranked rush defense. So maybe a half unit Eckler over. Was it 50.5? Is that what you see for Eckler?
For his
rushing yards, I'm sorry.
Rushing yards?
Yeah.
Yeah, let me see. Give me a second here.
I have 50.5.
Eckler, I see 44.5.
Even better. I'll take that. And what is Kelly? I'm pretty sure like 38, 39.
Kelly is not listed. So
Okay,
maybe
cool.
closer to game time. I think that's why also the number came down for Eckler because that news came out that, hey, they're going to be splitting the carries here. So they probably just don't know what number to post for Josh Kelly because Kelly's been the better of the two, at least rushing the football.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that's all I had, though.
All right. Yeah, I didn't have anything for this game either between the Chargers and the Broncos. Let's get to the Sunday night football game. We got the Eagles and the Cowboys. Cowboys currently sitting as a 3.5-point favorite in this game with a total of 51.5. No weather implications in this game, but let's take a look at the injury report for both of these teams. Start here with the Philadelphia Eagles. Eagles are going to be pretty clean injury report here. Nobody really is injured. I know they have all those injuries in the on the defensive side, but I mean that's already something that is well known already and not worth repeating. So for the Dallas Cowboys here, I am currently seeing a pretty clean injury report for them as well. So relatively healthy squads other than guys that have been previously put on the IR earlier in the season. Player props in this game, Lonte, what are you looking at?
I got one that I really like. Pollard under, was it 58.5 rushing yards. He's under this in 6 of his last 9 versus above average rush defenses. New England, he had 47, San Francisco 29. Even against Philly, he had 51. He went over against Seattle, Washington, and Carolina. Their rush defenses are 22nd, 17th, and 23rd. Washington a little bit misleading because they kind of were better at the beginning of the year and then they traded their guys away, but they've been worse as of late, and they got them 2 weeks ago. So, yeah, I think Pollard's been probably one of the bigger disappointments of the year, especially from a running back perspective. Hasn't been
Yeah.
as explosive or hasn't been that guy that Cowboys fans or fantasy owners thought that he would be with Zeke being absent. So yeah, I think the Philly defense, obviously rush defense, is elite. So I don't think it'll be much. I think they'll rely on Dak to kind of throw the ball short. They use the short pass game as an extension of the run game. So I think Pollard maybe has a better day receiving. I don't see him getting over 60 here against his Philly defense. But that's the only one that I had.
Yeah, I mean, as exciting as this game is going to be, there wasn't really something that stood out to
Right.
me. Dallas Goddard, I think he's going to be back in this game. If you want to
Oh,
look
is he?
at his, yeah, yeah, I didn't see him on the injury report. I did see news that he was activated. He was supposed to come back last week, but I think they just held him out last week for precautionary reasons. But
Yeah.
let me see what his number is for this game. Yeah, 34.5. I really do like the over for him. I think that he's had a lot of success in his career. One against the Dallas Cowboys. So I do like Dallas Goddard in this game. I think this might be the AJ Brown return game, quote unquote. I know he was dominating earlier in the season, but it's kind of tailed off lately. I think that he can definitely give fits to the secondary of the Dallas Cowboys. 3 career games against the Cowboys is averaging 78.7 yards receiving those games earlier this season. Did have 7 receptions on 9 targets for 66 yards. So maybe if you look at his receptions as well, I don't hate that. But again, oh yeah, last week he did have a pretty good game, but that was going to come from behind. 8 receptions, 114 yards, 13 targets for AJ Brown. But I do like him to bounce back here in this game against the Dallas Cowboys. So those were the 2 that I was looking at in this game. You have anything else for this game?
No, that's it. That's it.
All right, so that is the last of the games for the Sunday schedule here. All right, Lonte, let's put together our touchdown parlay for this week. What are you looking at for touchdown scores?
Let's see. Touchdown scores. What do I have?
You mentioned someone earlier. I forgot who you
Yeah,
said.
it was Granson. I like Granson to score for
Okay.
Indy. Yeah, but he should be at a big price too.
Ooh, 6-1
Yeah,
anytime.
I think he scores. I really do.
All
I think he
right,
scores.
throw that in there.
Um,
Um,
got to go
let's
chalk with Alvin Kamara. I think he's gonna get in the end zone.
let's see what his price is
He might
at.
be like 2-1.
Minus 165. We'll throw him in there. We got a 6-1 in there.
Yeah.
I will throw in. I think Justin Fields probably gonna be at a minus price as well. I don't know, plus 155. I'll take that. We got. Let's throw in one more.
Let's see. What about Pierce? Damian Pierce.
He should be at definitely a plus price for sure. Where is Damian Pierce? Plus 230. All right, we'll throw that in there.
Yeah, I
All
like
right.
Damian Pierce.
Yeah, so we'll go Kylan Granson 6-1, Alvin Kamara minus 165, Justin Fields plus 155, and Damian Pierce plus 230. That'll get you close to 94-1 for that touchdown parlay this week. So again, Damian Pierce, Justin Fields, Alvin Kamara, and Kylan Granson to find the end zone here. Those 4 guys get you the exact numbers plus 9360, so close to 94-1 for our touchdown parlay. All right, Lonte, let's put together our prize picks entry for this week before we get out of here. So I think we both agreed on a couple here, and I'll throw those in there. So let's go Jerick McKinnon.
Yep.
On his receiving yards. Let's see if they have it listed. Yeah, Jerick McKinnon. So he's at 20.5. So we'll go more on that. There's another Drake London you want to throw in there?
Yeah. It doesn't matter which one, receptions, yards. I think he can go with both.
Let me see what his receptions are at, because I'm pretty sure they have it rounded up to. Oh, it's actually at 4. So yeah, let's go with that.
Oh yeah, definitely.
We'll go more on that. What else?
Do you like Mingo?
Oh yeah, Mingo was the other one. You want to go receptions or yards? I think I
I'd
like
rather
yards better.
Yeah, yards.
All right. Well, let me see what his receptions are at. Yeah, see, that's at 3.5. So I think if he has 4 catches, then he's definitely going to get over 36.5
Yeah.
receiving yards. But let's see what it's at here on Price Picks. Yeah, 36.5. So we'll go more on that. What else?
Um, did you like the Debo one? I don't know if you like the Debo one or not. I like Debo.
Yeah, I could get behind Debo for sure. You want to go receiving yards or rushing and receiving?
Let's go rushing and receiving. Just increase our chances a little bit.
Let's see, Debo, 67.5 is the
Yeah,
number
that's right.
there.
Yeah, yeah.
So we'll go more on that.
What
All right.
about you like
What else?
Gibbs? I was about to say, do you like Gibbs receptions? What is his receptions? 3.5?
Gibbs receptions. Gibbs is at 4.
Yeah, okay. I kind of wanted 3.5. All right, that's fine. Yeah.
All right, so we'll go with those 4. Let's just do that. We'll go Jonathan. So we'll go Deebo Samuel, more than 67.5 rushing and receiving yards. Jonathan Mingo, more than 36.5 receiving yards. And then Drake London, more than 4 receptions. And then Jerick McKinnon, more than 20.5 receiving yards. For our Price Picks entry, that power play of $100 will get you a return of $1,000. So come join us on prizepicks.com. Use our promo code SGPN. They'll match your first deposit 100% up to $100. Again, prizepicks.com. Make sure you use our promo code SGPN. All right, Lonte, that is going to do it, my friend, for NFL Week 14. Anything else you want to mention before we get out of here?
Not really, man. Make sure you shop around for the props. We're kind of giving out the most available number, but there are numbers that are better than that. So just make sure that you shop around for sure and get the best number, especially with props.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Definitely shop around, get the best number, because sometimes it's a fine line between being hooked and being on the right side or the wrong side of that hook. And I suffered that mightily on 3 of my NBA player props on, I think, Friday night. I got hooked on 3 player props. So hopefully, again, definitely shop around, find the best number, and hopefully you can cash in on the ones that we did give out here for sure. All right, that is going to do it for this NFL Week 14 pregame show. Lonte and I will do the Monday Night Football show here sometime soon. We'll decide that time here. So, good reminder to make sure subscribe to the NFL Gambling Podcast YouTube channel. If you're not already subscribed, do that. And also for the 17 of you watching, please smash that like button for us before you guys get out of here. Definitely helps us grow the show as well. The fantasy guys should be live. They'll answer all your start and sit questions. I believe this is the last week before playoffs start, or
Yes,
maybe
sir.
a couple weeks here. So again, if you're right on the fringe of qualifying for the playoffs, I think it'd be a good time to get over to the guys. So answer all your fantasy football questions. All right, we'll talk to you guys next week for the pregame show again. Definitely join us for the Monday Night Football show. Make sure you subscribe to that NFL Gambling Podcast. Make sure you follow Lonte on Twitter at XXLonteXX. You can follow me on Twitter at SportsNerd824. Good luck with your bets here today. Let's break these books off and let it ride.